Please be advised that we are speaking in our own individual capacities and not representing any companies we may work for. We are not your lawyers, and any information given during this podcast does not constitute as legal advice and is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the episode.
Hi guys, I'm Katie.
And I'm Nicole.
And welcome back to Girls Gone Legal. Hello guys, welcome back. We are back at the studio because we just loved it so much. We had to come back. Episode 7.
Episode 7.
So we've been doing it for 7 weeks.
That's crazy. I was thinking about that. And I was like, how has it been 7 weeks
I know.
already? I feel like we just started yesterday.
It's literally middle of fall. I don't know. I went to the mall today and there was Christmas decorations. I'm like, no, we can't.
Christmas.
Honestly though, you know what it is?
Thanksgiving.
It is fall. And you know what fall means? Law school midterms.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't have to take midterms.
Do you miss it?
No, not at all.
That's not fair.
I am so happy. This is my first fall ever that I don't have to take midterms or any sort of exams.
Yeah, and our school's right next to a Starbucks, so pumpkin spice latte season means midterm season means go get a pumpkin spice latte, and then go sit in the library for 6 hours. So
It's also next to a dry bar.
yeah, again, here we go.
Done.
Nicole in her hair in her dry bar. So this week is very fitting, I feel like. It is Crushing Law School Midterms, Strategies for Success. So all things midterms, what we know, what we wish we knew, what we did, yada, yada, yada. So yeah. Do you want to kind of take it away? First of all, I'll give you the rundown about what's going on with my midterms.
Actually, you're in them right now.
I'm
so
in
let's
them.
Hear.
I only had one midterm, and it was yesterday. I had an evidence midterm. I think it went good. Nicole actually had the professor I had, so I used all your resources.
So you didn't have midterms for your other classes?
No, I didn't have midterms because I only actually have 2 in-person classes. I only have evidence and common law, and then all my other classes are like entertainment and IP, and they're all like remote, so we don't have midterms.
So for those classes that you don't take midterms in, is your final 100%?
So con law, yes, finals 100%, and then the other ones, which we'll get into all of this later in the episode, the different variations, but my other classes is assignments based. So,
Okay.
But yeah.
I like that better.
Yeah, me
I'll
too.
present, I'll do an assignment, I'll do all of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to take a test.
No.
Don't test me.
I know,
I don't want to know.
You got to take them, and that's going to be all things law school's midterm. So I guess, let's
get
get into it. So I guess, Nicole, you start us off. So, like, why realistically do midterms matter? Like, what is the real reason? Like, why do we care?
Midterms matter because it is prepping you for the big test, which is the final.
Yeah.
Your final is so important, and if you really zone in on these midterms this season, you will be like 100 times more prepared for your final.
Oh my goodness. Hello. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Continue.
You will be ready for your final. So if you put everything you have in now, you're only setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the biggest reason is one, not always, but usually they're graded. So why should you care? Because it's still going to be, even if it's only 10%, it's still going to be a part of your grade. So that's why you should care. But yeah, the other reason is the fact that it's prepping you. And the more prepared you are for the midterm, the more prepared you're going to be for the final. So
yeah. And why it is part of your grade, I was actually talking to Katie about this on the way here, is while it's very important and it's a part of the grades, don't freak out over it because it's not going to define you. While you want to do good because it's part of the grade, it's not going to make or break you.
Especially because it's a lot of times your first, if you're a 1L, like it's the first time you're going to be taking any type of law school exam.
Yes.
So like, to be completely honest, most people aren't going to do very well on your midterms in first semester because you don't know what to expect. You don't know how you take tests like that yet. So they're kind of there for you to mess up sometimes, and that's just like the truth of it. And Nicole has a story to go along with that.
I like that. They are there for you to mess up and to learn from, so that you can take that with you to the next exam in December, and then to the next exam next semester, and so on.
Yeah.
But I do have a funny story that I told Katie on the way here, and my first midterm ever in law school, I got a negative on. I didn't even...
her final grade was a negative.
It was a negative. I don't even remember what the number was because I just saw a negative and I was like, I'm not looking any further.
Let me preface that with that's actually not normal in law school, so don't freak out. Like, that's like one professor who was notorious for doing that. Like, as soon as you said it, I knew exactly what class it was. We heard this like the horror stories, so it's not normal, so don't freak out. But Nicole experienced it.
Don't think you're going to get a negative. This professor was known for giving negatives. It can happen. I got a negative. I was like,
What class is it?
criminal law.
Ugh.
And all I was thinking
Gross.
was, am I going to get through law school? This is the
Yeah.
first grade I've ever gotten back. And
Talk
I
about
was,
imposter syndrome. And then you get your first grade back and it's a negative.
Yeah.
You're like,
and now I've graduated law school and I got through it. So if you get a negative or a low grade, you're gonna be
still
fine.
gonna be fine.
And I came back and I did really, really well
Yeah.
on my final in criminal law.
Perfect.
And that really helped my grade. However, it just moral of the story is doesn't define you.
And honestly, not even like to that extreme. Like there's, and a lot of people will tell you this, getting a bad grade on your midterm also doesn't define you. It also doesn't define your final grade. There's so much more to go. Like the most I've ever heard of a midterm being is what, like max 30%? And that's even a lot. So like there's still so much more that you're gonna get graded on. So if you do tank it, use it as an excuse to like grind that much harder. Like I know people who got 100% on their midterm and then still came out all borderline like getting a C or D in the class because they did their midterm and said, oh, I'm so good at this, I don't need to worry about it, didn't study as hard, and then did bad. And then the reverse, you have someone who did really bad, like you said it for your crim exam, grinded because you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't do bad on this, and then all of a sudden you get a good grade in the end. So like it goes both ways. Use it as a learning experience. I think it's a good way to deep breaths.
Deep breaths.
I'm talking really quickly today.
Yeah,
we were running late.
We were running late. It was me. I'm
No.
always running late.
It was fine. We're good. This is a great segue into our next topic, which is going to be understanding the format of midterms. So there's a bunch of different kinds. Do you want to, what kind of midterms have you kind of seen in the past?
There's essays, there's multiple choice, there's short answer. I think the very scary one is long essays.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh my gosh.
See, really? I disagree. I hate multiple choice.
No, I don't like multiple choice, but I feel like people
Are intimidated by the essays?
I like
agree,
essays.
I agree.
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Multiple choice seems the easiest because if you don't know something, you pick an
You
answer
guess.
and you keep
Yeah,
moving.
yeah.
However, in law school, and if you're 1L, you'll come to realize this, that essays are actually the best because if you don't know something, argue everything. Just argue
else.
everything.
Yeah,
and
I
you'll get
agree.
points somewhere.
Yeah.
Multiple choice, you're right or you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
And in law school, you literally, all 4 answers are correct. What is the most correct? Like, I hate it. I think it's like brutal to do. I think there's different techniques that you'll pick up on, and I'm sure you would have picked up on if you're in law school, like during the LSAT time. So like certain words, I know I had a professor that said, if you have a multiple choice answer that says all of the time or any time, like those are certain words that are usually too definitive to be a multiple choice answer. So automatically you can cross them out. Like there's little tricks like that you'll pick up on the way, but in all, I hate multiple choice. They're annoying.
Yeah.
They're annoying.
Yeah, those specific words in the multiple choice are really important.
And they're so tricky. And with law, you have to be, like my evidence midterm was multiple choice. And it's so specific. Like I had one that I was looking at, and the only difference between A and B is one was blank outweighed blank or blank substantially outweighed blank. It's one extra word, but it obviously makes a big enough difference to give you a right answer for a wrong answer. So definitely that. You also, in law school, see a lot of, depending on what school you go to and depending on the class, the difference between like an open book and a closed book exam, obviously, is you're going to have different studying tactics, right? Because your closed book, you're going to be there to memorize because you obviously can't look at anything. But then your open book are actually sometimes a little scarier because people don't study as much going into it thinking, oh, it's open book, I have my notes, but then all of a sudden you're spending the whole exam searching through your notes to find the answer when you should have just studied it, and the only reason it's there is to find those, like we just said, specific little substantially outweighed the specifics of it, but you know exactly, oh, I'm going to rule 409 or oh, I'm going to rule 403. You know exactly where to look. So
I noticed on my midterms that were open book or even my finals that were open book, I did worse on those.
Really?
Because you kind of rely on it being open book.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh, okay, well, it's open book. I don't need to maybe study as much, or if I just know where everything is, you're not learning the material as much. So I think that it's definitely trickier. Yeah. So make sure you're really studying for those ones that are also open books.
And I would say practice at that. Like, I mean, we'll get into that in the next section with practice exams, but when you do practice it in an exam setting. We'll talk about that. But that means if it is open book, but only with this supplement, ask your professor for the supplement. And they probably will either give it to you or tell you exactly what it is. Like if maybe they'll give you the New York Penal Code as a supplement, or maybe they'll give you whatever, like a specific document, like the UCC, whatever they're gonna give you when you do those practice exams, do it with that exactly. So you know, like, okay, I know that I flipped to this. Like you'll start getting to the rhythm of rather than thinking, oh, it's open book. I'm just gonna look in my notes when you don't actually have your notes. You have like a penal code next to you. It's very different. So you don't want to rely on one thing and then on the exam you get another. So careful with the word open book because sometimes professors will say, oh, it's open book. And you get there and you're like, well, this is an open book. This is a supplement. It's not the same thing. So be cautious of that. But
yeah, the supplements help though. Because my first semester of law school, I didn't know that we got supplements.
Really?
And I was like, I have to remember or memorize every single rule.
No. Well,
But no,
it depends the case. I had to for Civ Pro. Civ Pro, I didn't get supplements. So it does depend, but definitely ask the questions early on so you're not, again, wasting time, but you could be used like studying other things or understanding other things to memorize supplement material that you have next to you during the exam.
Another way to memorize formats is IRAC.
So important. Say it again.
IRAC.
Oh, love it. Issue, rule, application, conclusion.
That will stay with you for the next 3 years. You need to know IRAC.
Some professors actually require like it's not, you don't have a choice. Like you are using IRAC form or you're not my torts professor was like that. We had to write our answers in our exam. That was an essay, issue, rule, application, conclusion. Like, definitely follow IRAC.
But it really, really helps.
It does.
It helps keep you organized because a problem I had in law school was I wanted to argue any and everything and I was kind of all over the place. Yeah. And you'll see legal writing is very different than if you were a writer in college or in high school.
100%.
And it's just different. So IRAC keeps you very organized. And
would you write it? Like, would you, on your exams, like, do you do issue and then write the issue?
Yes.
Yeah, so do
and
I.
it depends what kind of format.
I'll sometimes write it and then just take out the headline. Like,
take out
title.
Issue.
Yeah.
But to format,
100%.
I would write issue, put the issue is, and then rule.
100%.
Here,
I always
put the
did
rule.
IRAC extra C is how I always did it because I do issue, rule, application, conclusion, counter arguments. And I always did that at the end because sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, it can go both ways. Throw it in at the end. Do your whole analysis and then throw in counter arguments. So.
And then you hit on every point.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, next section is preparation strategies. So how to actually prepare for the exams. We'll just bang these out really quick. The first one is start early. So reviewing your notes like regularly, like that's going to be the best way to go into it because it's not like a college class. You're not going to be able to cram it realistically. Like you're not going to be able to memorize everything that you learned in a full semester or in, I guess, half a semester in one night. It's just not going to happen. No matter how much you felt like you were like paying attention to that class, like you got to give yourself enough time. That time frame's going to look different for everyone, but whatever it is, you can't cram it.
Yeah, definitely give yourself enough time. Start early. I know in college, I was always cramming and I, was doing well in college. And I was, I could do that
Me
now.
too.
And you can't. You cannot do that in law school. I learned the hard way.
I was going to say, let this be your, like, warning.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to get away with it. Like, you won't. I don't know anyone that can cram in one day when you're out of college and now in law school. So don't think it's going to be the same because it's just truthfully not. As much as you can be able to memorize everything, if you're cramming, that means you're not having enough time to do practice examples. And if you can't do practice examples, you can't issue spot. And one of the biggest things in law school exams is issue spotting. So give yourself enough time to be able to cover all your bases.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we talked a little bit about practice exams. Another thing I wish I did differently, I wish in the beginning of law school, it took me a while. Like these are things I wish I listened to when I was first starting out because I would have started them 1L and it took me going into 2L to figure it out. Then and my grades were getting better and better. However, I was like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? So practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
You have to memorize the material, but you have to know how to apply the material.
Yeah.
You can memorize all you want, but if you don't know how you're applying it to a certain fact pattern that a professor is giving you, then it's going to be useless.
And use your resources. Like look at your school resource bank. We had for our school an exam bank that we could look at past year, like our professors' past year's exams, use them. Like one thing that I pride myself on is like if you have 15 practice exams from a professor, I'm doing all 15 of them. Like that's one thing that I will like always, because like sometimes, not all and not any examples, but some professors are not like wanting to make another exam. So maybe you're going to see the exact same exam from 2 years ago, but just with a couple names changed or a couple questions mixed around. So why not use the resource that you have? So definitely do those practice exams. Like do them. Do them in an exam setting. Put yourself in a room. If it's you have an hour and 20 minutes for the exam, give yourself an hour and 20 minutes. No one talk to you. Don't go on your phone. Don't cheat. Don't do anything. And then see how you actually do.
Put yourself in that setting. Like put yourself in a study room. Put yourself in an empty classroom and put yourself in there and just, like you said, turn your phone off and just pretend like you're in the exam.
Yeah.
Because that will help you on exam day.
Yeah.
Because I know when I've started having my midterms, they were so scary because we would have a proctor and we would go into the room and everybody was freaking out and everyone was talking about the exam and what they studied and do you know this? And I was like, I would not go into the room sometimes until right before it started because you have to, trust yourself. And if you start hearing a million other people 2 minutes before the exam starts, you're going to start freaking
100%.
out. So give yourself enough time. Practice the way it would be on test day.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing about that is make sure you ask it's not a stupid question to ask your professor, can I copy and paste on the exam day? Because that's a very valid question, especially in certain classes where you're repeating, like crim, how many times are you going to define mens rea? Like a million times in one essay. So I want to know if I can copy and paste that because if I can't, I need to know that going into it and not expect that I just can. Yeah. Things like that, or do you care about spelling? Because there are these terms of art that sometimes professors want you to be able to spell those legal terms of art correctly. So it all depends, but definitely practice exams are super important. And then we've talked about this in other episodes, but outline creation. Creating the outline is going to be a good exam tactic in itself, and then using that to continue review is going to be helpful. But we've talked a bunch about outline creation. So
to go back to the copy and paste, I remember me and my friends would always talk about, does it have copy and paste? Does it have copy and paste? Because that helps so much with timing. Yeah. Because I would be done with an exam and I was like, I could have wrote so much more. I probably knew more. But the timing really kills you. Oh, yeah. You have to be quick. Yeah. So that's where the practice exams, 100%. Bringing those back in, help you
timing could kill you because especially when classes where there's a million different things you could write forever, if you're not managing your time properly, if you start talking about one thing that okay, it's relevant, but is it the most important? But even though you knew it, you shouldn't have time for it, then you'll go back and regret that. So timing is huge. Practice exams are huge. Speaking of timing, moving on to section 4, time management.
Time management.
This is more time management on your study, when you study. So the biggest thing is a study schedule. And it's it sounds so obvious, but it's so helpful. Especially when you have I remember in 1L, because all of my classes we had midterms. So you had 3 you've never done law school midterms in your life, but they're here you go, here, have 3 midterms while you write this memo. And you're oh my God, I'm drowning. Just schedule it. Block off 2 hours for contracts, 2 hours for crim, and section your time off.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And focus on one thing at a time. That was something I was learning when I was first starting midterms and, test season, exam season. Yeah. Focus on one exam at a time. I was going in every direction. And I like how it's 2 hours of contracts, which is, I think that's very helpful because in those 2 hours, you're just focusing on contracts. But sometimes I would try and fit everything into one day. And I'm not memorizing anything. I'm not being effective in any area.
I like to actually do, especially for finals, midterms where it depends, but for finals, I would have a contracts day. Today I'm only doing contracts. Tomorrow I'm only doing crim, and then I'll go back to contracts. Then I'll switch to torts. I chose a day to focus on it, and it felt like it worked.
I think that's really important. And depending how spread out your exams are, if you have 3 days leading up to the exam, focus on your contracts. Then after contracts, say you have 4 days until crim, those 4 days, just crim, whatever's coming up.
So I think with that note, scheduling early is going to be better. So.
But don't forget your other exams that are after that. Don't pretend those aren't there, but just focus on one thing at a time so that you can really,
dial in.
Be the most effective.
Yeah. And I think on that note, just finish that off, is breaking up your studying into blocks. So we've talked about burnout and the risks of burnout. So to maintain the balance during midterm season is just going to be creating those study blocks for yourself. So tell yourself, I'm going to study, I always say, treat it like a job, right? Study, if you have an off day, 9 to 5, study 9 to 5, 5 onwards, relax, do something else, because at some point you're just not retaining the information.
Yeah. Yeah, know when you're not retaining the information. There was times I would tell myself I'm going to study all night. Yeah. And I was so tired. Yeah. And I was thinking I'm not gonna retain any information. It's more effective if I go to sleep right now and wake up early and 100%, then study.
100%.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Section
Do we want to talk about Section 5, midterm day strategies?
Yeah, so this is like strategies now that is specifically, you walked into your class, you put your belongings at the front of the class. I'm giving you PTSD. You sit down and you say, okay, everyone start the exam. What are your strategies? So want to start us off?
All right, first, to go to the beginning, I take out all my highlighters. If you're allowed to have highlighters, use a highlighter, use a pencil.
Yeah.
Have what you need in front of you. Have your charger to your MacBook or whatever laptop you have.
Sorry.
Have a water.
Just because you made me think about it, if you're taking the exam on your computer, which a lot of people, we do, like on ExamSoft, God, do a practice run of it. Like, there's gonna give you like whatever, like usually it's like an integrity test, like to practice. Do it on a day that's not your exam day, because the amount of people in first year that would be like opening their computers up and going to their exam and realizing their computer isn't like working or something's going wrong, and they're like already freaking out, and they're taking this huge exam by Blue Book, which is like, if you don't have your computer, you take it by Blue Book, which is like the physical copy. But imagine throwing that wrench into your like brain on exam day already. So please, a couple days before your exam, do a test. Like, run the test you need to run.
Depending what software your law school uses, download your exam. We were able to download our exams, like
24 hours before.
Yeah, 24 hours before.
Do it early. Make sure there's no issues. Update your software. Like, the stuff that you don't want to have to worry about on exam day, worry about it before.
Yeah, know your passwords. That was one big thing.
Yeah.
I was about to take an exam and I was running around trying to find IT. I don't know my password. I can't get in.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
You don't want to have to deal with that. Do that before your exam day. So, but actually, once you get on for exam day, once you start seeing the questions, what is like the first thing you would say? Like,
okay, so the proctor is going to be like, all right, everyone start. It's like crazy in the room.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you hear everyone shuffling through papers, typing away. It's insane. So my first thing I'm doing. You want me to?
No, go.
Okay. The first thing I'm doing is I'm opening the exam and I like to read the question at the bottom first.
The call of the question.
Yeah. So what am I, before I read this whole long fact pattern, what is my main focus while I'm reading this fact pattern?
Like, an example of a call of a question, a legal question would be something like, was this defendant liable for larceny?
Yes. So now you're going to look for all the elements of larceny as you're reading the fact pattern.
Or like, was there a breach of contract? Like, you want to look at the actual call of the question before you see the huge fact pattern ahead of you.
Yeah.
I do want to pause, though. There's one thing that I'm going to do before I do that.
All right, what do you do?
Putting those headphones in.
Oh,
the earplugs.
Yes. Earplugs.
So stupid. Sounds so dumb. And like, I've never thought to do this in my life. Like, I'm not sensitive to sound. Like, I could work in a coffee shop. I don't care.
Yeah.
If they don't give it to you, usually law schools give it to you. If they don't, go to CVS and get a pair before your exam. We get like those plasticky, like rubbery earplugs you get on airplanes to put in before the exam. Did you wear them?
Yeah.
I needed to. Or else you hear this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do that. I actually can't sit next to this person. This person's literally breaking, like having a breakdown, typing like this on their computer, and I'm trying to just like sit there, like trying to remember the elements of a crime, and I can't because Susan is losing her mind I couldn't do it. So the headphones. Saved my life. Me and Seth, like, would literally like, the library has them, and we like stuff them in our pockets because God forbid an exam room didn't have them. No, we're having our headphones in. Or like, I'm not gonna pass that exam. So
I would always put headphones in or earplugs, and it's the only time in my life that I've ever used.
Yeah, me too.
Earplugs.
Me too.
But you need them because you're hearing so many different things once you put the earplugs in.
Yeah.
You're in your own world and you're thinking about the test and what you need to do.
Yeah.
But another thing during an exam, I'm a lefty and all my friends are righty. So if we would sit like near each other,
I didn't even know you were a lefty.
They would get so mad because all my stuff was like to the left of my laptop, and I'd be writing this way and they're writing this way, and now we're fighting.
Corner. We need to put Nicole in the corner at all times. Like, put her in the
I need to be away.
Like the side. Put her away.
Put me away.
The other thing we already talked about, but on the exam day, is pacing yourself. So so read the call of a question first, pacing yourself. So like, be aware. Like, you see there's 25 questions and you're an hour into the hour and 20-minute exam, you should be more than halfway done. So like, time yourself, know that. Do a quick flip through if you don't, if your teacher's not the nicest and didn't tell you exactly what it's like the format, they didn't say it's 10 multiple choice and 10 long answer, know that right when you sit down, because you want to be able to time like how you're going to attack this the best way you can. And the last thing on exam day is get good sleep. Make sure you're going in there with a clear mind. And that means not staying up super late, because realistically, whatever you're going to study the night before your exam is not going to be worth the detriment you're going to put yourself in on exam day when you can't keep your eyes open. So
I have to say, that
Oh God.
to go off of that with the sleep, well, get good sleep.
Yeah.
Definitely get good
Yeah.
sleep. However, there'd be people that would say, I'm done studying. Like the exam's tomorrow, I'm not going to learn anything in, a couple hours. I impress myself with the amount that
How
I
much you
can
can
learn.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Like the night before the exam, which is don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
However, if I didn't feel good on something, I wasn't just giving up because it was
okay.
you
There's
know,
a
the
difference
night
between
bef-
like giving up and then like drilling things that like either you just gotta sacrifice
Yeah.
or like you know enough. Don't
Yeah.
give up. Like if you still have the capacity to do it. But
Yeah.
I just say like don't sacrifice the sleep because
No,
if you're,
you need
there's
sleep.
no chance you're
You
waking
need
up for a
sleep.
9 a.m. exam and gonna be sharp and ready to go if you've been up since 2. So like
Yes, you definitely need sleep.
yeah.
But don't teach yourself a whole new topic the night before.
Yeah.
But if you want to
Because
continue studying,
that will just like stress you out more. Because
Oh,
like
it will,
you get to
it
the end of
will.
it and you're like, well, that was pointless, and then I really don't know it. So
Yeah.
it's also realistic to know that like a lot of times there's gonna be a subject or like an area that you're not 100% comfortable with. That's fine. Like for me, like for my evidence midterm, like I felt great about majority of it, but I did start getting into character of it, like certain things, right? Like, and then I started feeling shaky on certain topics. That's fine to feel like not a million. I feel great about everything, but just pick and choose, and you shouldn't feel like that. You shouldn't be like uneasy about all of it.
Yeah, there's just one thing I want to add to studying for midterms, like that portion of this. Don't focus on what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Everyone studies in their own way. So if you're doing something different than the person next to you, don't be freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong, or I'm out to dinner right now and they're studying. You
Yeah.
might feel good on something and go look it over after.
Yeah.
Don't think you're doing something wrong. Do what makes or like what helps you study.
Yeah.
If that makes
Play to your
sense. I don't
strengths.
know if I made
No,
sense.
100%. Play to your strengths.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about what other people are studying. Know what you're studying. There's also ways you're going to realize, know a lot about this topic. Maybe that doesn't need 100% of my time, but this topic might. So, and then I guess like the very last thing is the post midterm reflection. So now you've written the midterm. You're worried about it. First of all, once you've written the midterm, remove it out of your brain and throw it in the garbage. I used to say this with acting, like when I did an audition, and I'd be like, okay, that was great. Now I'm gonna just throw the script in the garbage and not think about it because what am I gonna do now? It's over. Same thing with midterms, right? Like you wrote the midterm. You can't, what's the point of like, I know you have those people that would call you like a week after. I'm like, this question is still bugging me. I'm like, dude, like
Yeah, it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
What's that gonna do for you right now?
I could tell you that the moment the midterm or final, whatever it was done, I would run out of the room. I wouldn't talk to anyone. My
don't
two
wanna
friends
know.
would talk to each other.
Oh
I'm
my God,
like,
I couldn't.
don't talk to me.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you
Because
later
you'll
about
hear
something
like
else.
it'll be like, wait, for question 7, did you put A or like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and no one
literally-
knows.
The,
No one
the
knows.
timer went off and I don't even know what it is. I don't want to know. Also, you might have a group of 10 people that are coming up to you and be like, oh no, that question actually was an option contract. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't put that. Turns out they might be wrong and I'm right. So what's the point of sitting there arguing about it? Like,
Yeah.
move on. But when you do get the exam mark, when I can't speak today, when you do get the exam back, there's so much value in looking through that and reviewing your answer, reviewing your feedback, because that is your biggest resource to improve your final grade.
Yes, it is.
Like,
so wait till you get it back and then go through it.
Yeah.
And then critique yourself and learn from those mistakes.
Meet with your professors, and usually they're great about it, your TAs, and be like, hey,
Yeah.
like, I don't know why this was wrong, or like I need advice on that. Like, use that as your resource and adjust what's needed.
Yeah. I
mean,
agree.
Nicole's a prime example of it. She went from getting a negative mark in crim to doing great in crim. And it's just like you look at what you did in your midterm and you adjust and you adapt and you change. And and I think that also means adjusting your study habits. So like maybe you started studying one way and you tanked all your midterms. Guess what that means? It didn't work. Study a different way now. Like maybe you studied with a group and like you thought you knew it, but maybe you knew it collectively, but you didn't know it independently. So what do you do for finals? Study alone. So there's different ways, adapt and change, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely adapt and change. And when I got that negative back, I did not let that discourage me. I was like, what am I going to do right now to sit down? I got it back in November. I had about a month to my final in December. And I just created a strategy. I met with my professor. I met with TAs. I was like, what can I do right now to get this grade up and to study differently? And, you succeed that way.
It all worked out in the end, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, if you have midterms right now, good luck. If you've already done them, I'm sure you did great. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in
Yeah,
this
thank you for
week.
listening to this episode. I hope this helped you. If you're going through midterms right now or you took your midterms and you're listening, I don't know how I did. Don't freak out. Just study hard. Finals will be there before you know it, and you will be good. In your first semester of law school will be done. And if you're in the middle, if you're a 2L, a 3L, you're getting there. You know the drill.
Yeah, I know. We're almost there. We got this. But yeah, midterms is like once we get over that hump, it's like now there's only great things to look forward to, right? Like we're getting to finals, we're gonna get into then a bit of a break, and then second semester is a fresh start. So in the meantime,
Yes.
we'll talk to you guys next week with a super fun episode with a super fun guest. So we'll see you
Yes.
then. But in the meantime, follow us on all of our
Yes.
socials, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. You know the drill.
And in the meantime, stay sharp, stay stylish, and
Stay legal.
bye, guys.